When it comes to the Star Wars prequels, there's a lot you can say about them. Flat acting, somewhat dated visuals, cringe-inducing dialogue, and a lack of any style. No interesting camera angles, visually distinct shots, or anything. Basically being sanitized and boring. However, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Instead, with the soon-to-be-released Star Wars Visions anthology anime, with multiple creators and studios being involved with its production, that got me thinking about style and unique takes on the Star Wars universe, where someone with a creative vision can, in a sense, make their own Star Wars story. Which brings us to Star Wars Clone Wars, a short anthology series following critical events during the Clone Wars. Since neither episode 2 or 3 would be following the events during the war, which makes no sense since it's literally called Star Wars, but I digress. With it being an animated project, someone with talent and experience would have to helm it, and perhaps bring their own flair to it. And what better man to lead the project than that of Genndy Tartakovsky, who, if you do not know, is a legend in animation, creating such hit shows as Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack. So, someone like that was more than qualified for the job when this show was first pitched. Story here is... and of course... So, yeah, there really isn't a story in this show, since it's more of a collection of action and critical moments during the Clone Wars than anything else. When the series was first aired, the first 2 seasons were made up of 20 episodes being 4 minutes long each. Then, season 3 was made with only 5 episodes, but each being 13 minutes long, which allowed for them to have a better connected story, and leading into the events of Revenge of the Sith, which is pretty well done, honestly. And with most episodes being pretty short, it was surprising when going through the series to guess where the original cuts were for each episode, and honestly, with them having only 4 minutes to work with, they work perfectly for the bite-sized chunks of action that make up an episode, ending right at the perfect time so you're hooked to see what happens next. However, I watched this as it would be with all the episodes being combined together to form 2 volumes, with season 1 and 2 being volume 1, and season 3 being volume 2. Which in this case meant after 4 minutes the episode wouldn't end, and I'm surprised with how well they all blended together. It's pretty hard to notice when certain ones end and begin. Also, the series only clocks in around 2 hours, making it the length of a regular Star Wars movie, which, with its short bursts and bite-sized nature, makes it perfect to watch and pause from time to time if you're needing to take breaks or such. And those short bursts of action in the show are, holy shit, these have no right being as good as they are, and I wish we had more of these. Amazing. The action is pretty awesome, from the all-out warfare between armies, which kind of borders on being war crimes, honestly, plus the show allows for other kinds of action besides those ones, which make for some of the best action scenes in the show, like Windu fighting without a lightsaber, which then makes you wonder why the Force isn't used this often, and especially in this manner. Obi-Wan fighting this fruit roll-up thing, and even jousting. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, but in a good way. When watching the action, the first thing that came to mind was undoubtedly the similarities to Samurai Jack, where in that show, like this one, it was made up of a lot of action with different and unique situations and enemies for Jack to fight. Even all of the same action scenes are different from each other, like every lightsaber fight has its own flavor. There's the Anakin versus Ventress fight, and the first General Grievous encounter, or Obi-Wan versus Fruit Roll-Up, and Mace versus the battle droids with no lightsaber. It's why I find more interest in something like the throne room fight from The Last Jedi compared to Anakin vs. Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, where it's not just smacking a lightsaber into something over and over and over again. There's a difference between Windu fighting without his lightsaber, having to rely on the Force to defeat all of his enemies, compared to Obi-Wan, who's desperately trying to kill this fruit roll-up thing when he's trying to use his lightsaber, and that's not working. He has to deflect flamethrowers and everything in order to do it. Also, the different atmospheres and styles used in each of these fights are wonderfully used. A good example of this is, in my opinion, the best fight in the show, being Anakin vs. Ventress, where we go from it being a regular fight on the ground, then into the trees, and then into the ruins of Yavin 4 while raining. This one great scene right here with the lights being highlighted with lightsabers, and then the red of the planet and lightsabers atop the temple. The animation quality is just amazing, with lighting being nicely used and reflecting off characters and objects, environments looking beautiful and looking like scenes straight out of Samurai Jack at times. It's pretty neat. And even the light use of 3D elements doesn't look too bad either, with pretty much it just being used for spaceships and nothing else. Characters are also nicely detailed. Okay, well, maybe a little too detailed at times. Palpatine is given way more wrinkles than I thought he could have ever had on his face. Dooku's head has the shape of a banana, and General Grievous has never looked scarier, even with realistic CGI. And speaking of Grievous, this is actually his first appearance in any Star Wars media, and holy crap, what an introduction. The show introduces him as an almost silent killing machine who can mow through like 5 Jedi at the same time and is an absolute badass the whole time, making each encounter with him a terrifying life and death situation for the good guys. Though, sadly, after this, when we see him in episode 3, he's just a generic and pretty pathetic villain, who basically just makes stupid decisions, runs away from all his fights, and coughs like he's a pack-a-day smoker. Honestly, he never gets any better, even in the reboot. He still acts like the movie version of him running away from fights and getting his ass handed to him, compared to other characters who actually get improved in the show. Which brings me to Ventress, whose first appearance was also the show. But, unlike Grievous, she was lacking anything to make her super memorable besides the fight she gets killed in, if I'm being honest. Which is a shame too, since I like her design. I think the small idea for her was pretty interesting. Which luckily in 4 years, she would be brought back for the Clone Wars reboot and was given way more development. Additionally, Anakin as well was shown to have a way better slow turn to the dark side where he shows those tendencies, and honestly, they get kinda dark at times compared to the reboot on some occasions. Which makes the prequel seem even dumber when an animated anthology not even based around Anakin shows his turn to the dark side better. Like, I really enjoy the wordless cave painting vision Anakin has where it symbolizes him turning into Vader. It's quiet and kinda creepy at times. Speaking of parts of the cartoon that don't speak, that's what a majority of this is. Again, like Samurai Jack, there are moments in this show that no one says a single word. It's pretty much just left to the environment or facial expressions of the characters to help tell the story or show emotions. And it works beautifully at times. Like right here, for example, where Anakin returns with village warriors after they were horribly mutated by the Separatists. Damn, I'm kinda getting teary from this. Damn, this is making me want to cry now. It also works especially well in the fight scenes, where it helps keep up the tension and make the conflict seem more serious, where it's not just people cracking jokes the whole time like the MCU, for example, or anything else like that. It instead helps ground the characters in a more serious manner, with them trying to kill the opposite opponent from them. Honestly, it lets their actions speak louder than their words. They also use this for a majority of the time for the clone troopers, where we rarely get to hear them say words, and instead use hand motions with each other signaling what they want to do. And honestly, it's really charming. It makes them seem even more badass on top of the great action scenes they have. Compared to the reboot, where they're shown as real people with personalities and feelings. They know the weight of the actions they do throughout this long and desperate war, wondering what they may do after it's over. Who cares? Check out these big moves they pull off! Looking back at the Clone Wars 2003, it made me think about how Star Wars as a whole has had little style in both animation and movies, to some degree, until after Disney bought the franchise and basically allowed anyone to do whatever they wanted. Most of the time, allowing directors to put their own stamp on the franchise in their own unique way, with great minds working on future projects right now. Like, there's different visual styles in something like Solo, Rogue One, and even The Force Awakens to a certain extent, compared to other films like the prequels, or sometimes the original trilogy to a certain extent. As for the animation, as good as I can say the writing, characters, and stories are, the style in it has gotten a bit stale with Star Wars animated shows trying to replicate it rather than doing something new. So that's why I'm excited to see what Visions does for the franchise, and I'm hoping down the line that Genndy gets another shot at Star Wars. He did a great job with this miniseries, and it would be wonderful to see him do another one in this style again. I mean, after his work on Samurai Jack Season 5 and Primal, I need to see what he can do. And just for the hell of it, the show gets a 7 out of 10. It's a fun little series with great action and animation, and as a Star Wars fan, you'd be doing yourself a disservice not checking out this banger.